It's January 1st, 1836, and you voted overwhelmingly for me to play one particular nation for this playthrough. And it's this one right here, the unrecognized regional power of Korea, Joseon. The interesting thing here is that we are not only an unrecognized regional power, but also you'll notice we have an overlord. This great big bad boy right here. It's the Chinese. It's Great Qing. They're our overlord. We're their toady. We start with 30 military. They start with 455. So naturally, we know our place. Otherwise, we have a somewhat reasonable GDP, a population of around 10 million people, largely Korean, and we're impoverished. Yikes. Alrighty, let's take a look at what we've got. Good news is we actually start in the green, which a lot of places don't. We are very close to the heart of China-ish, Beijing. And it looks like our relationship is really good. Yeah. Demand independence immediately. We probably will work toward that eventually, and a whole load of other things. I'd love to hear what you think I should do. But first and foremost, let me go through my 7 basic things that I always start with. Firstly, we're going to need a technology, and I think probably we'll go with one of these basics. Atmospheric engine, maybe intensive agriculture. Oh, we also actually don't have the lathe, but we'll come back to that. Okay, that one's done. Next up, we want to check if there's any glaringly bad goods. It looks like paper is the only one. I'm going to start, therefore, with our very first thing that we're going to construct, a little bit of paper. We should also familiarize ourselves with Korea, I guess. Looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different provinces. Loads of peasants living in each one, but it is these two that look like they have the most... no. Aha. These two. Definitely the provinces in the north, by and large, have more people. Let's put some paper factories there just as something to get started with. Maybe a cheeky skyscraper, I don't know. Looks like our declared interests are a bit meh. We're currently a tributary. Dang it, what does this actually do? Plus 1% progress from them each day towards increasing relations. Ongoing efforts to improve relations with us. Right. Okay, we don't have any subjects, but we do need to declare some interests. So I already have an interest here over Manchuria. We could attempt to colonize, but we'd need to get borders. That's probably a waste of time. For the time being, let's have an interest in Japan. Yike. Taking a look at the books. Damn, we're not even running any consumption taxes and we're in the green. How is this? Let's crank up government wages by the whole lot. This will immediately increase my approval with the intelligentsia. We could also lower the standard taxes down. Fantastic. Even take it even lower still if we wanted to, but because we're about to start constructing, I'll leave it there. And maybe also slap the people with a cheeky liquor tax for an extra 1,000. Maybe a tea tax as well. Not very Korean. I'm gonna tick the game rearing away on a low speed. I'll probably play through this at 4 or 5 in future, but first and foremost, who's in charge? Oh, go figure. It's the landowning interest group. Neat. And we have a king, my king. Fantastic. 50% of the power here is held by them. You can see marginalized groups, intelligentsia, PB really low. Our religious group has some strength, and apart from that, it is just all landowners all the time, all day, baby. And that probably means that we can't really do much, except we could get a local police force. We don't really even want to do that because that'll just strengthen them even more. So what I'll do first is just throw someone in with them. Legitimacy is at 100%, which is insane. We can chuck another party in just to unlock different laws. This will, of course, determine which way we want to take this playthrough. And at the moment, I don't mind so much how we want to take it. I think for the time being, we'll just chuck in an additional group, probably not more than one. We might throw the armed forces, we could put the intelligentsia in alternatively, just to change a few laws. Now that we've got the armed forces in, we could try and push through professional army, which is much better than these peasant levies. It's sort of all we can do unless I want to reform a little further. I don't think I do just yet though. That pass chance is pretty miserable, but I'll have that ticking away, and we'll start to, of course, move some other levers to try and change political control, like boosting up these groups with their wages. Oh, having a look in at the Korean countryside, and I gotta say, I like what I see. This is a neat little place. So obviously, We're going to have to build some kind of navy because we are just so exposed. And then we have China completely covering our north. And that's essentially it. Moving out of this is going to be really difficult. I would often do a sort of a cheeky early expand. Like in my Persia playthrough, we just went omp and swallowed Kiva before anybody could even notice. Here, I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be easy. I mean, we don't even have a navy. We have plenty of diplomacy points that we could spend though, so why don't we start making some friends? Let's improve relations with Russia because they are the big bear in the north, but actually quite far north. Probably don't need to worry about them too much. And then I think we'll also... we could also set a strategic diplomatic interest over here if we get rid of this Japanese one for the time being, and we could trade with the Brits. Alternatively, we could look to place it somewhere else where we could connect with them, like around here. It would open up some possibilities. Let's actually have a look at the market, shall we? How are we doing? So obviously we're part of a huge market at the moment, and that is why our economy is doing so well. We're piggybacking off the Chinese, but of course they're also costing us a fair bob. It looks like we just have way too much silk, so let's immediately start pumping some of that out to the Spanish market. What else do we have too much of? Sugar, yes. Grain, yes. Now this isn't because our production is good, this is because we're part of the Chinese market. So let's use that to our advantage and hope to not completely collapse an economy in the process and just start exporting a whole load of their grain. We're going to need some more administrative centers to be able to support this, so that might actually be a reasonable first thing to build outside of these these paper mills. I will of course also look to do a little bit of constructing, and seeing as this territory and this territory are my main ones, I think I'll start by building just a little bit of a construction industry in each of those. And we now have a professional army. I'm really actually quite surprised that we managed to push that through. The radicalized have become more radicalized. No big deal. And the armed forces love us. These guys, maybe not quite as much. The Yang Ban officials, who are of course overwhelmingly in control. We have a lot of capacity for iron mines, and thankfully it is in our northern territories where we're building up our construction sector. So let's fill in a little bit of iron and any other good that may be falling just a little bit by the wayside. We should have those paper mills done though. The economy is able to support construction at the moment, which means that I should try and scale up that industry a little more, at least while we can afford to. So with that in mind, I might queue up one more construction center here in the capital, and actually another one up there as well. As soon as we're building up these territories, why not? I'm going to ease my way into it, but that looks like a good start. Of course, our construction sectors are going to put pressure on the Korean economy, in particular, fabric. We're going to need a lot of fabric, folks, and also tools. Oh, and our taxation capacity is looking pretty nasty, so we're going to need, of course, government administration almost across the board. I've queued up some already, but as these territories continue to grow, and we continue to maybe bring in a lot more trade, we're going to need to up probably every single one. As I click into some of our really core territories here, I notice we have loads of capacity for iron. Logging camps, going to be a big one. We should probably queue up some wood. And speaking of, a statue of the king has been commissioned, unlikely to be constructed out of wood. You know, I just don't know how we feel about this group having 50% power. I think perhaps not everyone wishes to be reminded of their king. And for that reason, we're going to slap them with a -2 approval. Take that, nerds. And let's get a whaling station to celebrate as well. Although, interesting, look at that. Really bad for the workers. The mortality rate on this, wow, that's really fascinating. Yet not at all in the mines or anything. Neat. Okay, so rearing up the construction industry has of course raised those temporary expenses. However, we are still so good right now. Authority as well, we've got heaps of it. Let's do some road maintenance on the central territory because we are doing a lot of constructing there. We'll also, I guess, do some road maintenance here too. It's extra infrastructure, it's extra construction efficiency, and we've got plenty of authority to spare. I suppose we could use it to mess with the markets a little bit as well. Opium tax, maybe a porcelain tax. Generally taxes that don't hurt the upper strata too much. Luxury clothes. I mean, sorry, exclusively hurt the upper strata. Sorry, rich people. Actually, we should take a look in at just how each of our sections are doing. Our middle strata is almost doing as well as the upper strata. Yeah, man, they are doing fantastic. It's probably these guys who are doing the worst. Although, look, they're not even paying that much for their goods. Life is fantastic here. Or at least, if we zoom out and have a look at this, it's slightly less red here. Woo! Oh, and a scandal has broke out. It's been revealed that Byung-si Bak of the... I'm so sorry about the pronunciation. Throughout this entire series. From the Mahayana monks has been having a secret affair with a member of the clergy. You dastardly dog. His resignation, no capital, is being demanded. Yeah, see you, mate. Only because you're not part of us. Hey, look, and there's mass communication, so we're gonna let everybody know about it too. Oh crap, and we really need more convoys if we want to keep up this trade. Convoys, of course, are going to come from our seafaring infrastructure, so we might need to bring some of that to the top of the list, or try and find some technologies to help us out too. Okay, looking at our tools, they're still a little bit of an issue. We've got heaps of buy orders. There's no real good trade routes either, which makes me think that leveling up these tool workshops or expanding them, building more of them, should probably be our priority over a lot of other things which we can trade for at the minute. So I guess if I head back to my buildings... Oh yeah, okay, so we've got a tools workshop that's literally just come online, and I'm going to slam out another one shortly thereafter. Here's our intensive agriculture, which of course means we could now go back to this screen and have a look at some of our farms and see if we want to intensify them. It would add a new good, fertilizer, but generally be a better deal. We don't actually even have a lot of farms at the moment, so the net impact is probably pretty small. I think it's a safe bet. And let's fix our trade woes by slamming a couple of ports in our core territories and ignoring the rest, as is the way, at least at the start. Holy crap, look at the rise of these guys since we upped their wages. They are now actually an influential group. Interesting. Why don't we boot the armed forces out for a little bit? Try out the PB instead. Getting rid of them is probably a huge mistake, so for the time being we'll keep the landowners in. This will change the makeup slightly, and as you can see, give us a few different levers to pull. We probably don't want to move back to a consumption tax. If anything, we want to be moving the other way on that list. However, we could look to change some citizenship laws. Interesting. Migration? Let's enact some migration controls. This will improve our relationships, or at least the overall approval of the industrialists and the trade unionists. Two groups that are marginalized. We might want to play around with them later, so let's get a little bit of support going for them where we can. One of the crappiest things about not having any of these laws passed is that we don't have any institutions. And of course, you know, we could try and boot out the landowners and start to push through some a little bit faster, but for the time being, this is probably okay. We are, after all, a puppeted state whose gold reserves aren't looking as healthy as they were when I first took power, but that's alright. What is... Oh my god. The Russians and the Japanese are colonizing Hokkaido together at the moment. Russian Hokkaido and Japanese Hokkaido. It's a shame that I can't get in there and get some of this myself. However, I think we need to be sharing a border with them in order to colonize, and obviously not a lot of that opportunity here yet. I'm going to unlock the stock exchange. This will really reduce the bureaucracy cost of trade, and trade route competitiveness will go up. Pretty good considering just how much we are putting into it. It would also be really nice to have urban planning unlocked as well, though, wouldn't it? And it's such an early one. We'll go for those two. Looking at our list of woes, and it looks like artillery's a bit of a problem. Sure. Russian guns. There we go. We'll get some of those in now that we've got the availability to do so. And the rest of these issues aren't too bad, except for the glaring fact that we're not collecting anywhere near as much tax as we should be. But help is on the way. It's just going to take around a year. Ooh, foreign faiths, the suggestion of migration controls has caused debate among our religious group whether immigrants will share the uniquely Korean religious sensibilities. Let's see. Migration controls being enacted plus 15% and they go down, or we just screw ourselves over. I think we'll do that. Yeah, no brainer, and actually a great result for us as well, because we will start to see the politics of the nation shift. Look at that. Interesting. The rural folk rise to power. Other groups rising too, a little slower. These guys still well and truly in the lead, but they're flailing a bit too. It's all good. It's all good. I might look to start to increase our taxes or start to generate a little bit of extra money here now that we're just running out of gold. Let's bring our taxes up to a normal level, try and stabilize that a little bit. We could bring in some more consumption taxes, or more importantly, actually, bring in a slightly more powerful one. Services tax, generally actually pretty decent, and it will put us slightly in the green. And now we can roll along and support our construction industry and make money. Good, 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 good. Okay, Namgung, what are you like? Interest group, kind of the wrong one. We could look to, you know, there are little things that we can tweak around the edges, and they matter over time. If we head to our military screen, if we go recruit, it'll probably just give us 2 landowners. Oh my god, we got a rural folk general. That doesn't happen very often. I rarely see that. You're hired. Welcome. Should we fire okay? You're retired. Thanks for your service. We'll lose some approval from them, but we don't care. Neat. Alright, so that'll take their power out of there. We don't currently have a navy, although we could recruit an intelligentsia admiral. That is fun. I'm wondering if they've changed this in an update. I've not seen it like that. Minus 100 influence. Lucky that literally doesn't matter to me. You're hired. But sir, I've got no boats to control. It's fine, Won Yong. It's fine, alright? Just wait your patience. All in good time. Paper, still a problem. We're going to need more of it as we build more government buildings as well. So let's just crank 4 more paper factories. Looks good. That should be enough, I think, actually. As we scale up our construction, what isn't enough is the number of construction industry buildings here, I don't think. So, let's add some more. The construction sector upgrades are just so quick to build. At 3 weeks each, we could almost just turn them on and then turn them off a little bit down the line. But I think, yeah, it looks like the economy's sort of handling them okay enough. I'm happy to ride through that for a bit longer. And we have migration controls, which means that the people who want to love us, the rural folk, hate us a little more, but it's neither here nor there. And miraculously, it's actually already been 5 years. So, welcome to 5 years in, everybody. Does it feel like it? No, it was a very quick 5 years of power. But I think we've made some reasonable adjustments. Let's continue to make them by swapping around these powers a little bit. Bring in someone different. Change some laws around, maybe. We bring the intelligentsia in for a wee look. They have some wild things they can change, and it'll hurt radicalism a little bit, but we'll push that through. You can't make an omelette without cracking a few eggs. And at the moment, the thing that's really holding these guys in power, or at least one of them, is serfdom. We have a 7% chance of getting rid of it. But as you can see, we have a whole load of other ways that we could sort of weaken them around the edges as well. Let's be really cheeky and just try this. I mean, obviously the 7% is nearly a waste of time, but the legitimacy is quite high. So they're going to try and pass it twice a year. We've got colonization, questionably useful, but glad to have it nonetheless. Let's get that stock exchange and that freaking urban planning. Come on, man. Jeez. And with the stock exchange unlocked, it's saving us a bit. We're missing a whole load of societal upgrades. Like, we don't even have academia, so I can't even build universities yet. We'll want to build those if we want to give the intelligentsia a better chance, or ultimately, I mean, just play catch up, for crying out loud. We've got a lot of stuff to research. It's probably not a bad idea at all. Oh my god, our taxation capacity is so bad. Minus 30. nearly 40% collection in this area just because of how much we're using. Because we're purely focusing on it. We're going to have to up this government administration, and actually fairly quickly. So let's bring it to the front. It'll be hurting outcome generation, right? So it's not just a nice to have, it's actually really fundamentally important. Breeding and education, the two fundamentally important things. And of course it's created some disagreements within our polarized government about which way we should move. Serfdom being abolished has been all but completely rejected, so we'll ditch that. And try and use this event to maybe slide some more interest behind a group, or I guess we'll just push them down. Yeah, let's push the landowners down. I'm going to try a slightly different approach at reform. This time in our government wheel of fortune. We're going to bring the rural folk in and see what they can deliver. What change would you like to have? They'd like a national militia or peasant armies. You know what? I think we're probably okay with the professional army. This will, although moving to the national militia will let us mobilize a whole load of battalions. Eh? Eh? It would radicalize the armed forces. Eh? Probably a bad idea. Although not a terrible one, I would add. You know what, rural folk, it was short-lived, and I just don't want you to be here. We're going to bring the PB back in. That's right, they're back for a second time. Second try at the top job. Because we could change either our bureaucrats, which is super nice to change, because we can give the intelligentsia a little boost, and ditch the power of the landowners. Or, another one, of course, professional army, back to peasant levies, probably a terrible idea. National supremacy through our citizenship laws, we might just skirt around that awkwardly for the time being and try and push through this change to get some appointed bureaucrats. Weird that they don't want to help themselves with elected bureaucrats. It is interesting. But we do meet all of the prerequisites for appointed ones, so let's give that a whirl instead. As we continue to reach through our basic societal texts, first of all, I reckon we can probably unlock a whole load of different laws if we grab things like law enforcement, maybe nationalism, egalitarianism, all of these kinds of things could help us shift the country. However, I'm also very aware that, you know, production, mechanical tools, pretty good. This one will slowly build its way up over time, and then I'll focus on the rest, I guess. It's a little bit of a difficulty, actually, starting quite far behind, it feels, everyone else around us. However, we're under protection of China. There doesn't appear to have been even a lot of friction yet, so it's all good. Hey, mechanical tools have been unlocked. You know what that means, everybody. I'm going to swap back over here and see if we can deliver more upgrades. We could actually upgrade our livestock ranches. They'd use more tools, but get more meat. Definitely worthwhile. Any other upgrades glaring out at me here? Doesn't look like it, except for, of course, the obvious. Let's get our infantry upgraded as well while we're not using them. Generally a good idea. Paper mills. Can use a little bit of sulfur to make more paper. Tooling workshops. We could level them up to steel if we want. I think we should probably move to iron first, though. Unfortunately, we can't upgrade our administrative centers. These are kind of the ones that we really want to upgrade. One issue, among many, is that we don't have any sulfur. Looks like south of Japan does. China, of course, do. But we can't produce any ourselves. So, I mean, something to bear in mind for future. For now, we'll have to just import it. That's fine. Lead. We can do that. I'll queue up a bit for future, I think. One thing I haven't checked in ages is the market screen, and because we're still part of this horrendous market, we've just got so much stuff. Please, Britain, buy our silk, won't you? And we've got so much sugar, oh my god, get it out of here! Sell it to the Austrians, sell it to the Brits, I don't care, just get it gone, damn you! And as I clear out some unproductive trade routes, hopefully because we're doing it ourselves and just don't need them, question mark. We've got Property Woman, which is, of course, fantastic, although it has radicalized an interest group. We'll deal with them in a little bit. Could we squeeze through some more laws? Yes. Chances very high. No. We could try again for the appointed bureaucrats. Gone. Hey, remember this thing we discussed like a year ago? I'd like to try it again. And of course, all of this trade's going to put huge pressure on our convoys. At the moment, I'm a cargo port. Doesn't look like we're going to get an upgrade for a little while. Just keep building ports. I mean, we have very few at the moment. So actually, let's just slam a whole load of capacity in there. If I have a look at my build queue, is it horrendous? Actually, surprisingly not. Let's chuck a couple to the front of the queue. And also some government administration ahead of this paper. Neat. Yep. No, that is good. Central archives will give us extra tax capacity. We desperately need that. In fact, it's one of the glaring weaknesses at the moment is that I just don't have the administration to keep my tax capacity up. I am just constantly fighting fires here. Speaking of which, let's slam these to the top of the queue as well. We want ports, then we want government administration, port, government, port, just all of that on repeat, and a little bit of papery lead thrown in as well for good measure. Ooh, and look at that. All it took was a year, and they were like, yeah, actually, you know what? Appointed bureaucrats sounds great. Oh dear, although we have radicalized. Okay. Good news is, upping my tax capacity just slammed my economy well into the green. Thank you. I knew there was a reason why we were studying, and it turns out it was that. I'm wondering if there are other 20% maximum cash reserves. No. I'm wondering if there are other really handy things tucked away in here that could be super useful to us. The extra prestige, perhaps not as much. However, it would pave the way to more advanced stuff. It might be time for us to ditch this, though, after I get banking. Because that'll give us plus 10% cash. Let's just print our own money. What could go wrong, said the US Federal Reserve. Neat. And I think we should probably up some of our base industry as well. Something I haven't looked at too much, but like tobacco is fantastic. Rice farms, obviously another winner. I'm going to just quickly have a look at these territories and queue up some not urgent, but good resources that we'd like to harvest, including, of course, feeding our people. Because I dare say, if I cast my eyes down here, yeah, I mean, okay, there are some weaknesses. There are definitely some weaknesses. Upper strata really aren't happy with me. And it's the price of things like, if it wasn't glitching out, oh my god! It's the price of things like clothes, I think! We could make their lives a little easier by lifting any taxes that are placed on them. I mean, I don't think this is a big deal, though. Let's have a look at the market screen instead. Maybe this will reveal... Yeah, it does reveal a few oversights. And actually, weirdly enough, luxury clothes, a fairly big one. Yeah, nope, a fairly big one. Clippers, though, by far and away. Our trade, of course. Should we trade for some trade boats? That seems like a good idea. Let's get some from the French to try and fix this meandering mess. Ay, ay, ay. More shipyards, sir. Yes, well, we expanded our ports, so it's probably a good idea that we expand the shipyards too. Let's get 4 shipyards. As I said at the start, we're going to want a navy as well. So I kind of need to make sure that I'm building up shipyards and ports and, of course, ultimately those naval stations. However, we've made an impact, everybody. Today we made a difference to the price of clippers. Good. Who's next? Small arms. Hello. Got some Russian small arms. Known, of course, the Russians for their very small arms. And lead. Still an issue. Let's queue up a few extra lead mines as well. Neat. Okay. Apart from a few weak spots, actually, I feel like I'm starting to to sort of steer this ship in the right direction. We're picking up a lot of basic technologies. Hello, Central Archives. Please. I thought I already had you. Stage 2? Let's do it. That is fantastic. It's going to, again, just fill these blank spots, these glaring holes. Like paper, still a weakness for us. Let's try and bring some British paper in for the time being. Iron, I will try and manufacture that, I think, instead, by slamming a few more of those down. And then what have we got? Paper, military goods, unproductive trade routes, and so many trade routes that may or may not need convoys. But if you look past that, actually, I think we see a Korea that is off to a pretty good start. We've changed a few laws and slowly changed the face of the government as well. In fact, PB, you're done. Intelligentsia, ew. I don't think we're quite ready to remove the old guard just yet, but there is change coming. The industrialists could jump in for a laugh, but it would bring our legitimacy down by quite some margin. For the time being, I will leave them out, but we could almost take our pick with any group now. And that's kind of the way that I like it. Let's put the intelligentsia in and try and push through a little bit more liberal reform, but we'll do that next time. It has been 12 years in this episode. Of course, a lot of it was played on fast speed in between talking because we had, well, frankly, a lot to do and a bit of time to pass in between the decisions, but so far, so good. Just like the Russians' colonization of Hokkaido. Look at that. They did not muck around. Either way, thank you very much for watching this episode, and I will see you for more next time.